Okay, so I am currently logged into our school database, and I'm going to run this Dunder Mifflin refresh file, which you can find under content categories. Everything's good. And now let's go through a few review queries and learn a couple of tiny new things, slightly new things. So if we have a quick look at everybody in our database, select star from employee. We're just going to work exclusively with the employee table for this exercise. Those of you who recognize these people in this list, who watch The Office, will probably notice that one of our characters is missing from the list, so we'll add her in. We don't have Kelly Kapoor in there, so let's do that. I'm going to go insert into employee. And we have information about her. We have her first name, her last name, her start date. We have her title, customer service representative, and what her salary is. So let's make sure to specify the information that we have by column. So emp first, emp last. We have her start date, emp start, their title, and salary. Right. So it's insert into table name, and then in a set of brackets we list the columns for which we have data. Then we follow that with the values keyword. Notice I did not put a semicolon here because my statement isn't finished until I've provided some values. And another set of brackets. That's where I'll put my semicolon. Then in here I put in text values or date values or numeric values. Depending on what it is, I have to enter it slightly differently. So for text values, I put in single ticks, so single quotes around my text. So Kelly, right? And that's a value. By the way, when you're entering values, you can put as many spaces as you want, and there's no special computer rules for following case or anything like that. Values are values. They're the real world thing that you're going to be taking and providing out as read data later. Last name is Kapoor. She started on June 19th, 1993. When we're entering dates, I'm going to recommend that you put it in 4 year, 2 month, 2 day. So 4-digit year, 2-digit month, 2-digit day format. So this will be 1993, and it's June, so that's a 6 month. I'm going to go 06 and 19. Now other date formats will work. You can put in a string date of any kind that will work. But this is the most reliable and one of the easiest to remember, so this is the one we're going to use in the classroom. Her title, customer service representative. Don't be afraid to copy paste if need be, and that's what I'm going to do right here. Copy, paste. Then we're going to put in her salary, which is $55,000, and we'll save. Make sure that you highlight the code that you want to run and only the code that you want to run. So I'll hit execute here. It says 1 row affected. I don't actually see the results unless I ask the database to show me the results, so I'll use a read here by going select star from employee again. Notice that I'm highlighting it separately, and I'll hit execute. Now you can see the new employee has been added. Let's do the next one. Andy Bernard has shown a lot of pep lately. Add $1,000 to his salary. So we're going to take Andy Bernard, that's this guy right here, and we're going to add $1,000 to his salary. Now, we're not going to type in $61,000. We are actually going to take his current salary and use math, add $1,000. That's what we know from here. Even though we're looking at our database now, we have to assume that we can't really see it. We're going to be using it during our exercises in order to make our lives a little bit easier. But, oops, I'm just trying to zoom in here a little bit. There we go. Okay, that might help us out a little bit. Pin off this property. Okay. So Andy currently makes a certain amount. We're going to only use information from our question to answer our question. So we could go, okay, where his employee ID is 11 because we know it, but since it wasn't provided in the question, I don't want you to ever use it. So we're going to do this. We're going to go update. That's how we change a record that's already there without deleting it and reinserting it. So update, employee, that's the name of the table. Then the keyword set. And then we're going to do key equals value, comma, key equals value for everything that we want to change. So we want to change his salary. Emp salary is equal to emp salary plus 1,000. That's how we add 1,000. We don't go and look for what his salary is and type in the new salary. Our question said to add 1,000. That's what we do. We also want to put in a where clause to filter it down so we're only affecting Andy. If we didn't have this where clause, we would affect everybody in our database. So we're going to put in emp first is equal to Andy, and, so I'll put that in capitals so you can see that's actually an operator in SQL. We want to make sure that we use the keyword and to put things together, and emp last is equal to Bernard. So I can update, I run that. Everything's okay. Remember, it was 60,000 for Andy. If I hit execute and look at this again, he's now up to 61,000. So our update worked just fine. Now we're going to delete Jan Levinson. She was let go for unprofessional conduct. You guys saw that episode, right? So delete from employee. All right. Now we're not affecting specific columns. We're getting rid of the whole record, so we don't have to do anything to do with columns here. So we're just going to put in a where clause, and we're going to put her first and last name. First equals Jan, and her last name is equal to Levinson. Now I'm going to highlight, and actually, let me show you what happens. If you misspell it, say I misspelled her last name, and I try to delete with the where clause, then I get 0 rows affected. That's a good thing. It means that I may have typed it in wrong, but I didn't delete anything I didn't intend to delete. So if you see 0 rows affected, just go back and check your criteria. Sometimes that's your problem. Make sure you've spelled everything correctly, and so on. So now 1 row is affected. I've done that correctly. If I go back and I do a select star from employee, and I look, there's no more Jan Levinson in here. She was here before. She's not anymore. If I try to run a delete on her again, I've already deleted her, so I should now get 0 rows affected, and that's okay because she no longer exists in the database. All right. Next, let's increase all employees' salary by 25%. To do that, it's update employee set emp salary equals emp salary times 1.25. It's that simple. Since we're doing all employees, we don't have to filter. The employee table has all of our employees in it. And then I'm just multiplying it by 1.25, meaning what it was plus 25%. Done. If I look back, remember Andy Bernard, we had him up to 61,000. Well, he's got quite the hike there. Now he's up to 76,250. All right, now we want to show all employees. So showing is just reading the information. We don't need to change anything. So select star from employee. Notice it just says show all employees who make more than 100K. I haven't specified what to output. Normally that's mostly up to you, but we would at least want something like a name and maybe the actual amount that they're making. But in this case, we'll just output everything. So the where emp salary is greater than 100,000. Right? I cannot put a comma in here. If I did, just to separate that visually, and I tried to run this, I would get syntax error near the comma. I can't put a comma in my numbers like I might in handwritten numbers. So I've got that. Now David Wallace, he makes more than $100,000. Right? Notice that if I said greater than or equal to, I also get Michael Scott right now. So when he got his 25% raise, he got to exactly 100,000. So there's a difference between using greater than and adding in the equal sign here. This is when you're allowing an additional criteria where it's either one thing or the other. Cap employee salary at 100K by reducing those who are above that amount. It's actually really easy to do. We're going to update employee, and we're going to set their salary, emp salary, is equal to 100,000. Where their salary is greater than 100,000. So where before we were able to find an employee who makes more than $100,000, David Wallace, if I update, notice his salary right now is at almost $500,000. If I update his salary, or I update anyone who has above 100,000, you'll notice that I no longer get anyone in that list. But if I do, once again, go back to greater than or equal to, I should see him and Michael Scott both making $100,000 now. We're adding a new president to our company. So insert into employee his first and last name, his title, salary, and start date. Once again, values. So we're following the same pattern. Insert into table name a list of fields for which we have data, only fields for which we have data. We happen to have it for all of our fields in this particular table right now, but just keep in mind that if you didn't have his start date, for example, you wouldn't just put in a null because you don't have it. So we'll put all of his information in. Title is just boss. So if you want to sometimes visually identify what you're typing in, there's no problem with putting in spaces temporarily, but they can't be there when you're done. So $5.5 million, I got that correct. Make sure I've got rid of any spaces or commas I've used to visually identify. And then I'll put in today's date. So I'm going to use a built-in function to put in today's date. That's just get date. And when you use built-in functions, you have to follow them by their own set of parentheses, separate from any other that are in your command. One row affected. And we need to update David Wallace's record. So employee set emp title equal to vice president, where emp first is equal to David, and emp last is equal to Wallace. Notice that I have been able to see the IDs of my employees this whole time. I could go back and just do a select. We have to write our queries as if we couldn't, because these queries are eventually going to be written off of form input, where somebody is going to be searching, and we're going to have to be able to find it using search criteria. We won't be able to be there and monitor our databases the whole time and keep up with everybody's searches. So we want to write code that can run on its own. All right, so some of Tony's salary is commission-based, if you know what I mean. So we're going to adjust the his salary so that it's reduced by 3 million. So let's update employee set emp salary equals emp salary minus 3 million. Again, I'm just going to use spaces to visually identify it, make sure that I can see that I put in enough zeros, then I'll get rid of those spaces. And we'll make sure that we're applying it to the correct person, Tony. Then we'll execute. You'll see one row affected, and we're good. A couple of more quick queries. Let's have a look at the employee number and name of salesmen who earn more than $65,000. So select star from employee. All right. I like to start with select star from and then kind of whittle down the query and add stuff to it. So I want to show the number and name of salesmen who earn more than $65,000. So where emp salary is greater than $65,000. If I just did that, you'd notice that my titles include more than salesman. All right. So I want to also say and emp title is equal to salesman. There we go. Oh, I missed my S. Oops. There we go. We've got Andy making more than $65,000. I think it's only fair, though, that we also include saleswoman. Saleswoman. Sorry about that. Just scrolled away on myself. Okay. That said, because of the way this logic works, it first checks these two things are okay, and if they're not, it checks for saleswoman. If Pam made less than $65,000, then she would still show up on this list. So we also want to just kind of put brackets around here to say that both having a salary greater than $65,000 and either of those things, the salesman or saleswoman title, exist. Then we're also only going to output the employee number and name of these people. So emp ID and emp first. Let's concatenate it. Emp last as emp full. Remember, the as just makes sure that when we do calculated information like this, that we have a column heading over here. So you'll see it comes out as emp full. Okay. Show only the name and job titles of employees who make more than $50,000 and less than $70,000. So select only the name and job titles. Let's do concat this time. This is something we don't use all that often. Emp first, comma, space, emp last as emp full. So concat is, for the time being, you can think of it as an alternative to using this, except it does have special behavior with nulls, which is a little bit nicer. And we want emp title. And we'll get that from employee. And we're getting it where the salary is more than $50,000 and is less than $70,000. Okay. Notice I said more than and less than, so I don't include 50 or 70. It's only things between those numbers. Now, let's show details about people who are salespeople. When I say show details, that's just select star, just show all details. From employee, where emp title equals salesman, or emp title equals saleswoman. I'd like to point out that because we're doing the same, or comparing to the same field, some people have a tendency to try this out when they're beginning, and that will not work. You'll notice you get the red line right away. The OR is an operator that works on two already true or false things. So emp title equals salesman is a true or false. But saleswoman by itself is just a string. It's not a true or a false. So each side of your OR has to stand on its own. To illustrate that, I'm going to be putting brackets around these things just to make it very visible that these are two separate ideas, and they should be two separate ideas when you're using the OR statement, or the OR operator, sorry. Okay, so show details about employees who are salespeople. Salespeople includes people who are labeled as a salesman and a saleswoman. We're going to also show details about employees who are not salespeople, so basically everybody else. And it's actually really simple to do that. To get people who are not salespeople, let's just put some brackets around that and then use the not keyword beforehand. So where not, emp title is a salesman or emp title is a saleswoman. Right? So the not has to be kind of surrounding its entire criteria. So if you're looking for multiple things that it should not be, then make sure to use brackets to mark out the whole thing. Now if I execute that, you can see that I've got everything except for the salesman and the saleswoman. And that is all for now. Thank you.